are live.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome everyone to this meeting of the Mahone Bay Town Council. All of our councilors are here with us tonight, as well as some staff members. And of course, you folks at home that have chosen to join us and to watch on YouTube. Our normal plan is to have a session at the end of the council meeting when questions that you people at home might have asked will be answered. And I think there is a process published on the agenda on the town website that tells you how you can do that. So without further ado, council, you have an agenda that was emailed out to you. What is your wish?
Move be approved to circulate it.
I'll second
We have a
that.
seconder, seconded by Councillor Bain. All in favor? Motion is carried. Item number one was the approval. Number two, the minutes of the regular meeting of June 25th. What is
Mayor,
your-
I move they be approved as submitted.
Councillor Feeney approved as submitted. Councillor Now seconded. On the question, all in favor? Motion's carried. Let's go to the special meeting of July 3rd. Councillor Carver.
Just a question about the minutes. I know that the letter has gone
Excuse me,
to,
Councillor Carver, which minutes? Which minutes do you have a question about?
the regular minutes of June 25th.
Oh, okay.
So my question was about the letter that was sent to Mayor Bailey in response to her initiating
Yes.
discussion around the transit proposal, and or just being open to more discussion.
Yes.
Was there a copy of that letter sent to Modal and to Bridgewater?
I don't believe so.
No,
We
we
can
did
certainly do
not.
that.
Because her letter to us was CC'd to Modal and to Bridgewater. So it seems to me, because she was letting all the municipalities know that town of Lunenburg was open to discussion, that the town of Mahone Bay might be also letting the other municipalities know that we're open to discussion.
Good point. CAO, can we rectify that tomorrow?
Yeah, I have, I think we've got a scan of it, so I should be able to CC it by scan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're finished with that item. Let's go to the special meeting of July 3rd. Yes, Councillor Carver.
I move that they be approved as circulated.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by the Deputy Mayor. On the question, all in favor? Motion's carried. Correspondence, we had some correspondence concerning the cenotaph, proposed cenotaph garden. And Clerk, I think we had some additional correspondence that has been added to this particular item.
That's correct, Your Worship. An email was sent out earlier today. There was email correspondence from the president of the garden club, and she's not prepared to take that on as a club. They have safety concerns. We've also had an email submitted today that there are some volunteers in town who are willing to take on that project themselves, and they've submitted a proposal for council to review.
Okay,
May I ask for a clarification?
please.
So Maureen, with the information that you've just provided with respect to the president of the garden club and their not being able to take on the project, does that then mean that item 4.2 in the correspondence where the offer is made is not, it was a revoked offer? Can you just describe the implication?
I really don't want to get into the politics in a community organization, but essentially, yes. Essentially, the garden club by name is not willing to do that.
Okay.
But as I said, there is another offer from the community.
Counselor Feeney?
Mayor, as the correspondence that we're discussing didn't make it to the council agenda by the 5 days in advance of the agenda being set, I'd move that we defer this topic and item to the next meeting of I believe it's on July 30th.
That and everything else is on July 30th.
Fair enough. Just difficult to speak to, and difficult to speak to correspondence that just arrived an hour ago.
Yeah, the clerk had suggested that because the garden item was on the agenda, had been on the agenda, and there had been some correspondence provided, that we include the pieces that arrived today. However, your suggestion is a good one.
My feelings won't be heard if the motion's voted down, Mayor. So don't,
Councillor Carver?
To clarify, either solution's appropriate, deferring the item
Yeah.
or moving the correspondence ahead.
fair
Yes,
enough.
I would second the motion and suggest a friendly amendment, which is to ask staff to talk with the the players in the meantime. So we have a little bit more information from staff before we consider this request at the next meeting.
Are you proposing an amendment,
Yes, I
Councillor
am.
Carver?
And asking Councillor Feeney if he would be, if he would accept that.
So
Okay.
I'm amenable to that, Mayor.
All right. Councillor
Also-
CAO?
Just Penny, so staff can certainly go back to the Garden Club, to both of the two folks that wrote to us and clarify the interaction of those two letters.
No,
Is
no,
that-
that wasn't the issue that I wanted clarified. It was to talk with the 3 volunteers who have volunteered as individual members of the community, not just to talk with them and getting more detail about their proposal and with some recommendation from you about how that would actually could work.
Well, so that last part is what I'm wondering about, because I certainly have things to say on this subject, which I'm prepared to say at the next meeting when this comes up for conversation. But I'm not sure that a report's being requested, so we can convey what the volunteers have said, or if this motion is for staff to also provide a recommendation to that meeting, we can do that.
Yes.
I think, Mayor, I think council would appreciate hearing staff's opinion on the request. And if that can be provided with a short and sweet draft note, I think that's appropriate. And a recommendation from staff, I think that would help facilitate the conversation on the 30th.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a
Maureen,
motion on the floor.
can
We
you
had,
make sure the
actually, the
motion
motion
reflects
has an amendment. Okay, so let's first vote on the amendment. Okay, all in favor of the amendment? Okay. And now we go back to the original motion. And all in favor? Original motion is carried. So this item is going to be deferred to the 30th, at which time staff will, after having spoken with the principals of the project, will provide a report and recommendation to council. Okay, all right. Then let's go to correspondence, information items.
Motion to receive and file, your worship.
Motion to receive and file, seconded by Councillor Bain. On
Can
the
I ask a question?
Councillor Carver, do you have a
I
question?
think Councillor O'Neill spoke first.
Okay. Oh, she's on the other side of the screen. Councillor O'Neill?
Thank you very much. Just a very quick clarification would be appreciated from the CAO with respect to item 5.4, the Office of the Fire Marshal and changes to building codes proposed. I just wanted to make certain, as we are looking at certain building projects that do have kitchen components to them, that this was considered, if there was any requirement to consider this piece of information relative to some of the projects we have underway, or if that is not an issue in your opinion.
CAO, you going to respond?
Yeah, we didn't see an issue with this in our current project, but that being said, we'll make sure to review it. And since that project is still in the design, you know, there still is an opportunity to accommodate a change if necessary.
CAO, for my own information, in a situation such as this, where the office of the fire marshal is introducing changes to the building code, is it the responsibility of, in this case, the building owner who's in the process of having the build established? Is it their responsibility to look at the new fire codes and ensure that they're adequately addressing them?
In broadly, it would be. I think we're putting that responsibility on to contractors that we've hired for that purpose, but it ultimately would be the responsibility of a property owner to remain in compliance.
Okay,
That being said, you know, most property owners will only be given direction when they wish to make a change. But in Mahone Bay in particular, we've seen a number of changes from restaurant use to other forms of use that have
Mhm.
triggered significant renovation requirements under the building code, so that there may be some impact on some of those private businesses in Mahone Bay when they are changing hands, for sure.
so would our own fire inspector be the one who would ensure that those are being done?
Yeah, it just comes up whenever she's brought into a
Okay.
file for renovation.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Carver?
Yes, on item 5.3 around the town map, we received a letter with lots of questions about the map of the town that had been received through the mail, I believe.
Mhm.
And I want to say that when I received my copy of this map, I had a interesting question, because if you look at it carefully, can you see the town logo on the map?
Yes,
So I just wasn't quite sure who this map was put out by, because it has the town logo on the map. It's exactly the same as the map that is put out annually by the Chamber of Commerce.
Mhm.
And the website that is mentioned on the front of the map is the website of the Chamber of Commerce. So this morning I asked the clerk, Maureen Hughes, for more information about this map, and I think it would be interesting to hear a bit of the story behind it.
I was going to ask the same, Maureen, are you willing to give a little bit of background?
I am, and I had a similar moment this morning. I thought I could answer Councillor Carver's question until she showed me that logo. Before I spoke, before Councillor Carver showed me that logo, I explained to her that this map is an annual project. As Councillor noted, it is produced annually by the Chamber of Commerce, and it is available for tourists and visitors to have to see the commercial area of Mahone Bay as they explore the area. This year, the Chamber of Commerce decided not to print the map under the circumstances. They weren't sure whether the Vic would be open. They didn't really think there'd be a whole lot of people wandering through the Vic just to pick up extra pieces of paper and pamphlets and that sort of thing. And due to COVID regulations, they thought their best bet was to transition to an online digital visitors map. So this decision was made after all the advertising commitments had been made. So we didn't know on staff that the chamber decided not to go ahead with it. I did receive an email that said, in the midst of all of the emails, do you still want to do this? Do you still want to do this? In the middle of the COVID lockdown, I had an email that said, do you still want to continue with your ad? And I said, yes, if you're printing it, we do want to do that, not knowing that the chamber was no longer taking the lead on this project. That's what I thought my answer to Councillor Carver was going to be, and that still is the case, except for that logo business. So this is just new information to me today. I have gotten in touch with our sales rep from Advocate, who I have to say has always been stellar. She's fantastic. She's great to work with. I just reached out to her today and said, we're going to have a conversation because I'm not sure how this happened. And our logo is to be used very specific ways. And she was actually not aware that that happened either. So she's doing some looking into that. And she and I are going to have a conversation tomorrow. So A few things happened there, but I have to say Councillor Carver had the showstopper when she showed me that logo.
Okay. So we published it in the town hall? No?
We did not. Advocate Printing decided to go ahead with the printing because they had already sold the advertising. And I don't know maybe they just didn't print as many. I'm not sure where
Okay.
it becomes worth it for them to print it. But somewhere along the line, somebody who as yet unidentified decided to put the town's corporate logo on that map. And that conversation is not completed.
Thank you.
And then it's a bit of a mystery about how it was distributed and who distributed it.
It must have been Advocate Media because
Yeah.
they decided to go ahead with the printing without any community partners that we're aware of.
So
This vision of somebody going door to door about 3 o'clock in the morning, dropping off bundles of maps. Councillor O'Neill?
Just a quick comment on the letter that we received on this topic. Just wanted to acknowledge that it must have taken quite some time to go through and itemize the challenges with the map that Ms. Lonis found, and I just wanted to appreciate that. And I wondered if we do have a good relationship with this company that distributed the map, would it be possible or desirable to give them a more accurate version of the map for their next circulation?
That's problematic because this is not a map that we've ever produced. All we've ever done is buy a little tiny square of advertising to support the Chamber of Commerce.
Which
So this
appears
map,
to have been used to provide some level of legitimacy to this map. I'd say, if anything, we should ask them to not do this again.
oh, absolutely. That part's already happened.
That was my
but
follow-up
we-
question. Thank you.
But
So
this
Maureen,
map
I think
was
the chamber
produced.
does intend to get back into the maps game in the long run, though. And it would make sense to try to bring these suggestions to their attention when they do.
Yes, and it will be a chamber decision about the map because it's not our map.
Okay.
Yeah,
Councillor Bain?
Who?
Councillor Bain?
Oh, yeah, okay. I think we've discussed it enough. Maureen's going to look into it. Let's move on.
Okay. Councillor Carver,
I-
were you going to say that
Yes,
too?
I actually had one more comment on the topic, which was to ask about Ms. Lonis, Carolyn Lonis, receiving a reply from Town Hall in answer to her questions.
Okay.
So I think we could reply to her honestly that we've brought that to the attention of the chamber, who have traditionally produced the maps. I don't think we'll get into the whole story of this map in that reply.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to receive and file. Those comments were on the question. All in favor? Motion's carried. Let's go down to staff reports to council.
As always, I'll
CAO?
just note that I can bring things up on the screen as needed. So first one being the report to council. So if anyone has any questions, I'll bring that up.
Okay. Questions, Councillor Carver?
One question is from the clerk's report. I would
Which
like to
number
know-
is that, Councillor Carver?
Number 3, wondering when tree number 1 will be replaced, if that is known. Tree number
Maureen?
1 being the tree that was planted last fall beside the duck
Legion.
pond.
The duck pond, yeah.
We
Maureen,
actually,
you have a comment?
yes, we actually have several trees that need to be replaced. We've identified the source of the trees that have failed to thrive. And they actually all came from the same source. And I've had some difficulties connecting with that supplier, but I have done so. And we are in that process now of getting those trees replaced.
Thank you. I have another question, which is in the bylaws section. Do we have any, what is the date for the outdoor burning bylaw?
I don't know. We have not had time to go back through. I mean, we've been working on it, but so far have not been able to put that together. We are running very quickly up against
Okay.
election timelines and stuff. So I don't know what to tell you at this point.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to know that it was still in the mix, in the hopper.
Absolutely.
And under capital number 3, bandstand, the new bleachers. What will the new bleachers be? Are they there? Are they coming soon?
They're there now, if you want to go take a look at
Oh.
them.
Yeah,
The
should I-
previous
should get it?
previous bleachers no longer met code, so the province helped pay for these bleachers, which meet the current code for bleachers.
Great. So they're there now? I
Yeah,
have to
they're
get out
there.
more. Thank you. That's all from me.
Okay. Anyone else have a comment or question?
I did.
I'm sorry, Councillor O'Neill.
So just a really quick one on item 10, which has gotten away from me a bit. It was to do with staff writing to our MLA regarding funding for the water line replacement work. And I didn't see a copy of that in my inbox, and I was hoping to receive one.
Yeah, I'll forward everyone the scans of those. Sorry, that's just it's been a very busy week. Those were supposed to go out last week, I think. So we'll send those to you. They did go out to the MLA and MP.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Mayor, I just had one quick question under the finance manager's report, item 3. It's really not to the point of tax collections and our deferrals, but rather kind of links to the report, which I think is coming on next week from the province CAO, and the percentage and the percentage of uncollected taxes. And I'm hoping that I would have been under the impression that the tax bills and tax sales are designed in a way for the town to essentially collect 100% of its taxes owing unless you had some kind of a catastrophic default. So I'm just hoping that when we speak about that topic next week, I believe it's on the 30th, we're discussing the report that you emailed in the last day. You can just take a look at that issue around the percentage of uncollected taxes that they, and just kind of give a little color about how that information should be interpreted. It seemed when I read it that it implied that close to 7% of the town's taxes is not collected, but I think I'm probably just misinterpreting the way that information is being described. So if you'd indulge me on that for the next meeting, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. And to note that this report goes up to March 31st of 2019. And that's actually around the time when we had, returned to a tax sale process and pretty strict notices. And so I think we've actually closed that gap a little bit as well in the past year. But yeah, we'll do that. I'll make a note about that.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. All right. Thank you, CAO. Let's go to the next item. Staff report on temporary vending and special event bylaws.
We're back again.
Indeed.
And with some revisions based on council's discussion at the last meeting. But our recommendation, obviously with any bylaw, remains the same, which would be to give first reading. Before we do, I'm going to hear from council if there's any questions or requests for further revision, clarity around the revisions that were made. And I can put them up on the screen, but there's probably a lot of scrolling back and forth. So just let me know if what is specifically asked for.
Okay. Colleen, Councillor O'Neill.
Dylan, if you would put up section 5, please, the solid waste disposal. Just gonna grab it here too. So I was looking at 5.4 in particular. We have a section called solid waste proposal or disposal. And I just wanted to be very clear that also included the disposal or dumping of liquids. So 5.4 currently reads, vendors shall ensure that no products are dumped in town sewers or storm sewers. And just would like a confirmation that liquid waste falls under solid waste for the purpose of this definition.
I mean, I would certainly assume that it did, but I just wanted to check out so solid waste is not actually defined, eh? Yeah, I mean, solid waste as it is otherwise defined, you're right, we could get into some trouble. Paint obviously is solid waste, but not all liquid is solid waste. Maureen, what do you think? We could add a definition of solid waste, or we could change the way products is defined to just simply say products including liquid waste.
Or we could even change section 5 to waste disposal.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
That would be my preference too.
yeah. Waste
there you go. Simple, non-substantive.
Mhm.
All right.
Good point, Colin.
Councillor Carver.
Thank you.
Yes, and I'm glad that Councillor O'Neill pointed out that item because I find the word products is rather misleading. If there was a different word, if it was waste or products including liquid waste.
We say waste products.
Waste products, yes. No waste products, thank you.
No products are dumped in town sewers or storms.
So it would read no waste products are dumped.
I think it's another non-substantive clarification. There's
Yeah.
certainly no harm.
Okay,
I would like to just raise one question on that. This is actually something that we have had an issue with in the past. And one of the things we have seen is this is a pot I use to boil whatever. This is just water, or this is the water that I had on hand to wash my hands and I didn't use it. And then it gets dumped in the storm system and storm drain system. And we don't want anything. Our bylaws say you cannot dump anything down the storm sewers. So I'm a little bit concerned about getting too specific there about no waste products because people can't dump anything down the storm sewers.
I think it's probably semantic, Mo. I think we'd be fine either way, but by definition, if you pop a fresh bottled water and then you pour it down the storm drain, I think it's waste product at that point. But yeah, to your point, it either way could be seen as as an issue for clarity.
Anyone else? Councillor Carver?
Yes, if you could scroll down to section 7, 7.2 D4.
7.2 D4?
D as in duck, yes.
Okay,
D4. So this is an item under the general category of yard sales. And this item, it was the word retail that kind of threw me. And I would suggest that instead of the word retail, we simply say yard sales shall be conducted only during daylight hours.
I just want to ask Maureen, do you have a reason why the word retail was in there, or?
That was one of the things that we took straight out of the land use bylaw section on, that's what the land use bylaw says about yard sales. I actually agree with Councillor Carver. That would probably be more clear.
okay.
Just remove the word non-substantive.
Either way, either remove the word retail or substitute the word yard for yard
Yeah.
sales.
Okay,
Non-substantive change.
Councillor Feeney.
Mayor, hearing those two edits, which I think are helpful, given the scope of the edits that have been done over the last 2 weeks, and the fact that this while it's been well reviewed by various committees, this council 2 or 3 times, I'm prepared to move it along and make a motion if you care to hear it.
Yes, please.
Mayor, I'd move the council give first reading to the attached temporary vending bylaw as presented, with the amendments as discussed, and schedule a public hearing to receive questions and comments from the public about this proposed bylaw.
Thank you.
Second.
Deputy Mayor seconds it. Motion is on the floor. This first reading means that staff will now schedule a public hearing when we'll get public input on the question. All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Mayor, I'd also move the council give first reading to the attached events bylaw as presented and schedule a public hearing to receive questions and comments from the public about the proposed bylaw.
Seconded.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Carver. Would we endeavor to have both public meetings the same? Okay.
Mhm.
You've heard the motion on the question. All in favor? Motion's carried.
And just before we move on, in terms of scheduling those hearings, given the notice provisions and the fact that we've got 2 hearings and then would need to give first or second reading to both, the thought is that we would probably schedule the 2 hearings and a special meeting for the purpose of considering second reading as a one evening event rather than piggybacking it onto a council meeting.
Yes.
When I looked at the report and the number of items that are tentatively coming up on the July 30th meeting, we're already busy enough. We're going to need a special one to get this done. Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's go to the transportation project.
So we had speaking of special meetings, we had a special meeting of council to discuss different opportunities for a 2020-21 transportation project. And council provided some specific direction to staff to refine a list of components for a project to get a updated estimate from CBCL. And we've done that here. We provided it in a format that would be intended for application to the provincial Connect 2 program. So this would not be the sort of final step. Obviously, getting approval will coincide with reaching out to TIR with respect to these projects, getting their confirmation. But our expectation is that given the turnaround from Connect 2 this year, we would have the opportunity to have this come back in front of council in September for authorization to actually get out and do the work in the fall while weather permits. So as long as council is agreeable, the recommendation here is to direct staff to proceed to apply for funding from the Connect 2 program. But before that, I'm certainly happy to take any questions.
Councillor Carver.
Yes, I'm happy to make the motion that council directs staff to submit an application to the Nova Scotia Department of Energy's Connect 2 program for the town's 2020-21 transportation project.
Okay.
Second that, Your Worship.
Councillor Bain seconds it. This motion is for us to apply for the funding. Council will address the plan again once we find out if in fact Connect 2 is going to provide any funding. On the question, all in favor? Motion's carried. Let's go to the low carbon communities application.
You can probably tell it's a certain time of year. For a few meetings now, all of the staff's recommendations have been to apply for funding. So here's another one that lines up with the budget. It was our expectation to apply to low carbon communities. We did a little bit of refining since the report to council back on April 21st, which was also from Catherine. So this is an update to that report and provides a breakdown how we would intend to leverage the money that we budgeted to continue to advance some of the greenhouse gas reduction projects that are in our strategic plan. So there's a 2-part recommendation here. The council directs staff to submit an application to the Low Carbon Communities Program for the town's 2020-21 GHG initiatives. But there's also a recommendation that we approve area staff to submit an application to the NS Department of Energy for funding to support EV adoption, exploration of car share opportunities, et cetera, with the 3 area units. And that's not at a stage where it's, when I have more from area, we'll send it around. But right now, it's more about area spending a level of effort to refine that application. So it's a two-part. You can do them separately or together. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them now.
Let's do the first one. Councillor O'Neill.
Mayor, I would move that council direct staff to submit an application to the Nova Scotia Department of Energy's Low Carbon Communities Program for the town's 2020-21 Greenhouse Gas Reduction and Energy Initiatives Project.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor seconds that. On the question, all in favor? Motion is carried. Let's go to the second part of this one.
Mayor, may I recuse myself from this part of the conversation and this vote?
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Carver.
I would move that council approve area staff to submit an application to the Nova Scotia Department of Energy for funding to support EV adoption, exploration of EV car share opportunities in the 3 area partner units, and direct town staff to support this application. And parenthetically, EV means electric vehicle.
Okay. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Feeney. CAO, when we had our budget discussions, did we not push EV back into 21, 22?
Yeah, we did. So I think the thought here from area is that all 3 units, by the time we get to our 21, 22 budget, a lot of 20s, we will be in a position to benefit from some further market analysis around EV adoption and how targeted incentives or, charger programs, charger rental or incentive programs and that type of thing might be applicable.
Yep.
We've had a lot of talk about it before, but before we get to budget, we have an opportunity to really refine that thinking, and then the councils, each of the 3 can take another crack at, does it make sense to take certain steps next year? And we'll know more about the status of COVID with respect to car share, that kind of thing.
Okay. So this motion is not going to commit us to this year's budget around the electric vehicle piece.
No, there's no expectation that we'd come back to that piece that was deferred to next year, but it will put us in a better position for talking about that in next year's budget.
Okay. All right. We're going to get one of Elon Musk's little. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. On the question, all in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Colleen O'Neill, welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to something we're all thinking about every day, the utility reclosers.
Yeah, how do you guys like the explanation there? Does it make sense what a utility recloser is? I thought we did a fairly good job of summarizing it. So there's a recommendation here, obviously not anticipated, but at the same time, it's been a while in coming. Obviously, we need to reinvest in our system, and the electrical system has not had a ton of reinvestment. So we have some parts that are at this point past their useful life. There was a project here in our budget in terms of utility reclosers, and the recommendation from staff is that we take the opportunity of a good year, projected good year within the utility, to go ahead and make some reinvestment in the system now, which will continue to serve us for years to come. But it was not in the budget, so there's a significant request. It would be that council increase the approved budget for the electrical reclosers project to $45,000 and direct staff to proceed. And as noted, as I think you all know, the projected surplus for the electrical utility would allow us to accommodate this out of operating funds.
Councillor Bain.
I think for those people watching, it'd be nice to say that there's circuit breakers. I certainly wouldn't have caught on.
I was
And
happy
yes,
there was
if
a
it-
picture.
Thank you, John. If anybody's watching, there are 3 of these, and the town is divided into 3 circuits. And the importance of these devices is that those circuits remain separated in the event of an outage. So if these devices fail, an outage that would normally only affect approximately 1/3 of the town could affect 2/3 or the entire community.
Okay. Councillor Feeney, do you have a comment?
Mayor, I do. I'm prepared to make a motion, but I would like just to speak to it briefly after it's made and maybe and potentially have a notice of motion if that is the appropriate protocol. So I'd move the council increase the approved budget for the electrical reclosures project to $45,000 and direct staff to proceed with the project.
Thank you.
Second that.
Seconded by Councillor Now.
Mayor,
Councillor Feeney, you had a comment.
Mayor, on the analysis, which I certainly support the investment, but it implies that our funding mechanism is through a surplus of the operating performance of the utility. And while we just recently had our budget proposal and based on the initial budget, there certainly will be a surplus sufficient to meet this investment. What we haven't seen is any indication that that the performance of the utility is kind of on budget. So our budget was crafted pre-COVID, and I think it might be appropriate in our next meeting or between now and the next meeting for the manager of finance to provide, a small table that sort of illustrates our variance to the budget for the utility, just to put council's mind at ease that we indeed will have a surplus to fund this from. So I have every faith that, it's a long year and we've only just through 4 months of the fiscal year, but I think it's difficult to make a budget decision with the expectation of profitability when you have no idea if the profitability is actually going to be there down the road.
Okay.
But I will support the motion, of course.
Councillor Bain.
How long would it take to get these new circuit breakers?
Canadian
I don't-
Tire's got them on special this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, with authorization, I don't think it will take long, John, just probably a few weeks. at
So
most.
they are on the shelf item then?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So
And
can we entertain, can we delay this vote until the 30th?
well, so I was going to respond to Councillor Feeney there, and then you certainly could delay this vote, but at the same time, I have a level of confidence in the current situation with the utility that I understand you guys wouldn't be able to share because we haven't given you a report. Luke and I are working on a report on both that and the property tax collection for the next meeting, essentially because at this point we need to discuss how long the current interest relief provisions on both will continue. And with the August council break coming up, I expect that will be on your next agenda for consideration. So there will be a report upcoming. Deputy Mayor wanted to.
Yeah, I think this is a project, even if we don't have the money, we have to do it and do it as soon as we can. I mean, we can't say, oh, we put it off for 2 weeks, the first thing one blows and we're worrying about it. Let's get it done.
So
I
we
support
have to
that,
find the
Your Worship.
money one way or the other.
I'll give you the money.
This is
Councillor
recorded, right?
Carver.
Can we, enter that into the minutes, please?
Deputy Mayor.
I'll support the deputy mayor.
Councillor Carver?
Yes, thank you. Would absolutely support the deputy mayor that we go ahead and vote tonight.
There's a motion on the floor, Mayor. All we need is a vote.
Yeah, Councillor Bain, did you have your hand up before we leave this?
No, I was just supporting the deputy mayor's comment.
Okay, all in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, so you can go right out and buy a new coal scuttle. If anybody remembers that one. Bob Cratchit. Okay, temporary borrowing resolution around the fire station project.
So every time we do a major project where we expect to have to go to the Municipal Finance Corporation, we are required to pass a temporary borrowing resolution. We do them at various times of the year based on our own processes where we are with different projects. But based on the fact that we have issued an RFP for this project, staff felt that it would be necessary at this time to secure permission from the minister to borrow, which essentially would allow us to proceed with the project. So without permission, accepting any contract obviously puts us into a position where we're not certain that we have the ability to produce those funds. We have no reason to expect any issue with the minister approving this. As council's seen the FCIs, we have a very low debt ratio at the current time, but it's a very significant TBR. I think it's the largest that we've requested in a while. So staff have presented it now. Based on the timing of our RFP, we can get the minister sign off on this ahead of any award of contract. And it's a
Thank you.
long motion. It's up to you if you want to read it verbatim.
Mayor, I just had a question. Is there information that's inside the motion that would be better not be disclosed in the context of an RFP?
I can, yeah, certainly the amount of the money here, I can preface it is this is not meant to be predictive of the current RFP that's out. We staff went to a level to add up all the different projections to include project management in this and everything else that might be incurred in relation to the project. It's meant to be an outside maximum, and yes, we did not set a maximum for the current process. But that being said, this does have to be done in public. But I can certainly say that this is meant to be an outside maximum, not indicative of any expectations with respect to the current RFP.
So this is an anticipated number that does not necessarily reflect the end case.
TBR set a threshold for borrowing, so you can borrow up to an amount for the project. So the
Okay.
intention here was to try to set a
Someone want to do us
maximum
the
threshold.
honors and read the motion? See,
Yeah,
that's how I'm
somebody-
not allowed.
If you want to read the whole thing, or I think you're okay to go from be it therefore resolved, that's still a lot.
Okay. I would prefer to have it.
I'll
Oh, well, you're the chair.
I'll play the victim today, Mayor. Be it therefore resolved that under the authority of Section 66 of the Municipal Government Act, the municipality of the town of Mahone Bay borrow in the sum or sums not exceeding $4,456,600 for the purpose set out above, subject to the approval of the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. That the sum borrowed by the issue and sale of debentures of the town of Mahone Bay be to such an amount as the council deems necessary. That the issue of debentures be postponed pursuant to Section 92 of the Municipal Government Act, and that the town borrow from time to time to a sum or sums not to exceed $4,456,600 in total from any charter bank or any trust company doing business in Nova Scotia. That the sum of the borrow shall not be for a period exceeding 12 months from the date of the approval of the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing of this resolution, that the interest payable on the borrowing be paid at the rate to be agreed upon, and that the amount borrowed to be repaid from the proceeds of the debenture when sold.
Okay, you've heard it. Do we have a seconder? Deputy Mayor seconds on the question. All in favor? Motion's carried. Boy. Okay, draft public engagement policy.
This has been on the list for a while. Council Strategic Plan 2018 to 2021 included an item for this year to develop and implement a public engagement policy. Staff have reviewed a number of different examples around the country. I would say around the province. We did do that, but in order to find more robust policies, we actually had to go west. But we've presented a draft policy here for council's consideration. You can make further revisions as directed. In any case, the recommendation would be, as with any policy, that it be adopted at the next meeting of council after due consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Carver.
Yes, I think it's a really good policy. And I have two suggestions. One is just a change of wording to enhance understanding of the meaning. It is Section 3, C5. And because I struggled with what that item meant and talked it over with two staff members today, I'm just suggesting that the wording of that item be changed to the following: engagement by representation, including the appointment of members of the public to town committees.
It sounds clear, Penny?
So that is a suggestion just of change of wording. And the second suggestion is to include some discussion or some mention, some reference to the levels of engagement that are described by the IAP2, and I can't remember what that stands for, but it's the spectrum of engagement levels going from information to right through the whole spectrum up to the
Decision-making.
decision-making level. So that because the policy as it's written is so positive about public engagement, and that it may lead to a false impression that any kind of engagement leads to acceptance, full acceptance, 100% agreement with or responsiveness to public views or views that are expressed by the public, so that it would be helpful in advance of any public engagement to understand what level we're aiming for. It would have to be figured out by staff how to word that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Somebody want to make a motion?
So, Mr. Mayor, this would normally be coming to the next meeting for
I
consideration. So
apologize. You're quite right.
if council is comfortable with having this version be presented, you wouldn't need to do anything. I think to make the changes that Councillor Carver requested, it wouldn't be a bad idea to just do a motion to that effect, say that staff provide a revised version of the policy for consideration on July 30th.
Councillor Carver,
So move.
do we have a seconder? Councillor Feeney. This motion is to make the changes to the proposed policy as suggested by Councillor Carver, not to suggest if someone has a rush to the brain at 3 o'clock tomorrow morning on another item in this, that you would not address it to staff. All in favor? Motion's carried. Good one. That's it. Now we go to council items. COVID-19. Lunenburg's swimming pool has been announced to be opened. And there's a bit of discussion around the situation in Mahone Bay, but I am given to understand that our swimming pool committee has still determined that it would be not particularly effective to try and open our pool at this time.
My understanding, Mr. Mayor, is that they reached a decision a number of weeks ago that
Yes,
they were far enough into the season that in consideration of logistics, of staff, of being able to return the pool to function, that they were not going to be able to accommodate a late breaking decision from the province that would permit them to open. So they made that decision, and I think the intention to stand by it, based on the considerations, the dimensions of our pool, the staffing situation there, and their ability to safely operate. So unfortunately for residents, that that decision's been made. We will find out in the long run whether other community pools do have an opportunity to open, but their
Okay.
circumstances are not all identical.
Councillor Feeney, do you want to comment?
No, other than I spoke to the two pool board members in the last several days. I think they're very comfortable with where they've landed. And, in my mind, their rationale seemed appropriate. I wouldn't second guess the decision. And I think it was the right decision to make.
Would it be appropriate for staff to post a notice on the town's Facebook page, or rather website, just stating the obvious, that although some communities may be choosing to open their facilities in Mahone Bay, the pool will remain closed for the rest of the season, which is not any different than what was said 3 weeks ago, but there's a change on the horizon now.
Yeah, I think we can reiterate the current notice, and presumably will regularly repost elements of it on Facebook. I'm not sure what exactly Mo and I were talking about occasions where if we don't have another post, we may want to just repost something that's already up there for information. And if it has been a few weeks since our COVID bulletin went out, in our most recent one, maybe we just repost that information.
Okay. Announcement today that the border with the US is going to remain closed until the third week of August, which I'm sure will strike a chord with our businesses. I've been talking with a number of different businesses in town, and what I'm hearing is that they are concerned because the numbers just aren't what they were hoping they would be. Right, so now with the fact that the American market is not going to happen, I'm sure the concerns will be enhanced. Councillor Carver, did you have a comment?
Yes, I was trying to get your attention before we left the swimming pool topic. I'm just, I don't want to be a negative Nelly, but I'm anticipating that there may be some reaction from people in the town of Mahone Bay about the fact that our pool will be closed while the town of Lunenburg pool will be open. And there may be some misunderstanding about whether that's a town decision or about who made the decision. And that there may be some emails or messages or indications of frustration and confusion about it. So I'm just anticipating that we might need to be prepared to explain again.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll certainly reply to anything that comes in from the public. You know, it's just a matter of clarifying for people that these decisions are being made in everyone's best interest.
Yeah, agreed. Masks. I've asked this topic to be included at the next meeting of the mayors and deputies and CAOs. The CAO and I have had a discussion over the last week or so, and we've got confirmation that the individual town can make the wearing of masks mandatory. The town has that authority. We had a brief discussion at the Economic Development Committee last week, and the suggestion was made by one of the members that we try to get all of the towns in Lunenburg County on side. So we don't have one town saying you got to wear a mask and the town next door saying, no, come on over, we're open, leave your mask at home. So that topic is still on the table for discussion. I'm getting a mixed, not a mixed message. Most of the people who take the time to send a comment are in support of requiring masks in public where you cannot achieve 6-foot separation. I'm aware of businesses in town that have refused to serve people who were not wearing a mask. One shop refused to serve someone because the client was in a car with US license plates and refused to declare whether or not they had self-isolated. So they asked the person to leave. So there's a high level of interest and a high level of concern that the COVID problem is very much still out there. And if you look across the globe and you look across our neighbor to the south, it is such a huge problem that people want to ensure that if the time comes, the town can require masks. Councillor Now?
Yeah, do we have any indication as to how the other surrounding municipalities feel on this?
No, I broached the issue very informally with a couple of the mayors, and we'll see what happens at the meeting. Although this meeting, they can't make any decisions, but ultimately the decision around Mahone Bay is going to be made by the people that are around this table. And we would not necessarily be bound by the direction of another town, although hopefully it would be a cooperative effort.
Yeah.
The CERB is ending in favor of people either filing for EI or going on provincial type assistance, which is decidedly less than the CERB has been. So we may see a bit more stress and anxiety for some of our citizens who have been able to take advantage of the CERB and may now be facing increased financial pressures. All that to say that COVID is not anywhere near being finished. Round 2 is coming. And I think round 2 is going to be harder to deal with. People did the isolation, they did the lockdown. Now they're beginning to get used to doing things again, seeing family, seeing friends. To suggest that we, down tools again, it's going to be very much more difficult the second time. What are your own observations around town? Are you hearing similar stories? Councillor Feeney?
Like Mayor, my impression is, it's clear, whether you're in a coffee shop, where my daughter works every day throughout the summer. Very thankful to her summer employment as a student as well. But it's no question that the volume is materially down. And that'll have ramifications for every business in town. But it does seem that people are really trying their best. I think I'll be interested to wait for the report from the CAO and the manager of finance next week to see its impact on the town specifically. But my sense is that it won't be a surprise to us to see that there will be an impact next meeting.
And notwithstanding the great work that the first responders are doing, the frontline workers are doing, and even our own staff who have been functioning under an increased level of stress, trying to maintain the services that they provide. In spite of all those things, I am, as the mayor, proud to be the mayor of Mahone Bay when I see the way that all of the people in town have responded to deal with this. I'm not going to say anything else about that for now. Okay.
Just before we move off, I wanted to wait till the end, but since you referenced people who may be coming off of CERB or otherwise still dealing with some hardship, or business owners who may be having difficulty, we are still at this point offering a property tax financing program. So if one of the things that you're looking at struggling with this year is making ends meet to pay your property taxes to the town, you can instead apply for relief under our property tax financing program, which will be open until the end of this month. So if you're watching this, or if you know somebody who's affected, who you're watching this and you know somebody who's affected who might benefit, please let them know. We haven't had a lot of subscribers, and talking to other units around the province, that appears to be common. We're not necessarily taking that to mean that no one is in need. There may be simply people who are not aware of the opportunity. And hopefully we can do whatever we can to get the word out. So I thought I might as well try here as well.
Yeah, good idea. Okay, let's go on to the next item. A bit of a follow-on to this discussion about COVID. Back in March, we kicked all of our employees out of the office. We gave them a computer and said, here, go home. We'll call you there. And that's what our in-house staff have been trying to deal with, to continue to provide the continuity of service to the clients of the town of Mahone Bay. Our outside staff, equally busy, equally challenged to maintain that social distance when they go to knock on someone's door. And it has been suggested that it would be appropriate for town council to recognize the efforts of each and every one of our staff who have been laboring tiringly, stressfully since the middle of March. And it was suggested that we have a COVID day for staff. We first thought about doing it in conjunction with the long weekend at the end of the month. One of the managers said, hey, why don't we give staff a Friday in the middle of August? That'll give them an unexpected long weekend where council can say, we appreciate everything that you've done. And on behalf of all of the citizens of Mahone Bay, we're saying to our staff, and we've got a couple of staff members here, thank you. So I would appreciate a motion to recognize the staff of sending a congratulatory thank you from council, and also to give them, offer them, award them a day in middle of August to recognize their efforts. Councillor Carver.
Very happy to make that motion in recognition of everything that you've said, and also the fact that they have done so with great good cheer. So I move that council designate August 14th, 2020 as Staff Appreciation Day, a holiday for town staff in accordance with the human resources policies of the town.
For their efforts during the COVID problem, or whatever you want to call it. Okay. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Now? On the question, all in favor? Motion's carried.
Thank you,
August
everyone.
the 14th it is.
I'm sure it will be
CAO, you let your
appreciated.
management team members know?
Absolutely, yeah. We'll
Work
we'll
out
make
the
sure
details?
everyone knows, and it is very much appreciated, council, and thanks for listening to the feedback as to the 4-day weekend. It's a nice idea, but for utility staff, can be hard to accommodate 4 days away from the plants. So, so I think this is a great suggestion, and it's certainly appreciated. And thanks for not calling it Staff COVID Day.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Carver. I looked at that title and I thought, what is she really proposing here? She's going to come in and beat everybody up? Violence in the workplace policy, Councillor Carver.
You're on.
There we go.
Oh.
Thank you. This is really, the idea was triggered by the news of what happened, the discipline that was delivered to the warden in the municipality of the District of Yarmouth. And without knowing any of the details of what happened there, what did strike me in what I read was one of the comments that they would not have been able to handle that situation effectively if they had only had a code of conduct in place. What enabled them to handle that situation effectively was the fact that they had a very clear violence in the workplace policy available. So that it struck me that it would be very useful for our municipality to have such a policy in place. I'm aware that in the past, there have been issues of violence in our workplace, and that they were difficult to address. And I really think that would be, I believe this is a good sample policy, and would like to see it reviewed and have a report back from staff. So there is I thought I had a motion ready to go on that, but I'd like to move that council direct staff to
There it is, Councillor Carver.
oh, thank you. I couldn't find it. Then I can't read it on there either because it's not big enough. Oh, here we go. Be it resolved that council directs staff to prepare a report and recommendation to council about adopting a violence in the workplace policy, similar to the one currently in place in the municipality of the District of Yarmouth.
Okay,
I'll second that, Your Worship.
seconded by Councillor Bain. On the question,
Second, Your Worship.
Deputy Mayor.
I like that report. Thank you, Councilor Carver, bringing it forward. Instead of staff spending a lot of time, couldn't we just change the name from Yarmouth to Mahone Bay? Because,
That might be our recommendation, Carl.
okay. I think it's a good policy. It seems very thorough, and I think let's just change the name and make it easy for staff, and we'll vote on it next meeting.
Okay, Councillor
my opinion.
O'Neill?
Really quick question, and I agree with Deputy Mayor Noss. I like borrowing, so let's start with trying to borrow. And I just wanted to confirm, because I actually haven't gone through the policy in any particular detail, and I just wanted to confirm that it applies equally to that is equally applicable to both staff and council members. Is that correct, Councillor Carver?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm prepared to support that motion. Thank you.
Okay,
What would hold me back from voting on it right now is that to have it vetted if staff thinks it would need to be vetted by legal counsel or not. I'm not sure.
I'm sure it makes sense for us to review it and change the titles accordingly rather than just to approve it with the new title. But if we catch any other issues, we'll bring them to your attention.
Yeah, I wasn't meaning to vote on it tonight, but just
no,
not spend hours and hours
Yeah.
rewriting something.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
and we also have NSFM pursuing a similar piece of legislation, and they're buttonholing municipal affairs to get them to issue their version of it. We've had a lot of discussion around council behavior standards. We got hung up on the penalty phase for people who didn't follow it up. But I think, as the councillor and the deputy mayor suggests, at a minimum, embrace the Yarmouth policy, change the name to protect the innocent, realizing that in 2 months' time, there may be a directive from the province that could possibly affect everyone's policy. Okay, so we are going to, have we got a motion on the floor? Yes, we do.
Yes.
All in favor? The motion is carried.
Thank you.
All right. Now, let's see here. Committee reports. Gee, they should call this the Councillor Carver meeting. Councillor Carver, Age Friendly Community Committee. You're on mute, Councillor Carver.
Two
Thank you.
computers going here. The main thing there is just that we're reviewing sites with the help of staff for possible additional benches to be installed. The first sweep was looking at Main Street, but we'll be looking also at other places in town.
Okay.
More news to come.
Any
And
questions
those-
for Councillor Carver on the Age Friendly Community Committee? No? Lunenburg County Senior Safety Program. Councillor Carver.
Yep. So two things there. One is that I just wanted to highlight the fact that the Senior Safety Program has received a substantial grant from the Law Foundation of Nova Scotia to work with seniors to identify issues where legal support or legal issues are implicated in the concerns that affect them. And that's often around housing, neighbors and so on. So it's a really valuable, a very valuable vote of confidence from the Law Foundation, and it will provide some interesting and useful, helpful information. The other thing was in the agenda, there was an attachment called the Senior Safety Program Helping Tree. And if you've had a chance to look at it, you can see that it provides a very detailed list of resources in the county. That's useful for any of us to have on hand if people are asking us questions, or to redirect people, or to pass along to others that you know who may be able to use such a list.
Okay. Councillor Carver, in the little chart there where it says the month in review, it says that there were 146 people in June. 5% of your clients, is that 5% of 146?
You'll have to look and see.
So that'd be 9 people.
Yes, I think you asked me once before about the number that are being served in Mahone Bay. Is
Yeah,
that the question?
yeah.
And at that time, I think the answer was 12. So the answer this time apparently is 9.
Okay.
So
That's
that's
good.
roughly the number. And if you look at the proportions, they're roughly represented, but they're roughly equivalent to population proportions in the county as well.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Councillor Carver on that item? Okay. New business, we have none. Okay, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn, and when we do that, we will then go to the system for questions from the floor.
I'll make that motion, Your Worship, to adjourn.
Move, do we have a seconder? Moved and seconded, all in favor? Motion's carried. Kelly, do we have questions?
I'm up tonight, Your Worship.
Oh, it's you.
It's me.
Not confused. Do we have questions?
We did, and I just lost them. I don't even know what I did.
New phone, Mo?
Yeah, but that was I just pushed a button. Kelly, can you read out? There were 2 questions. What was the first one, Kelly? There was one that was posted during the discussion about temporary vending.
Yes, so the first question is regarding the temporary vending bylaw that's been proposed. Can someone please concisely and clearly explain what problem it seeks to solve?
Could you repeat that, please?
Sure. Regarding the temporary vending bylaw that's been proposed, can someone please concisely and clearly explain what problem it seeks to solve?
CAO?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very lengthy question for a quick question at the end of a meeting. So I think the best way to answer it is to refer people to look at the staff reports that have been prepared in this package and in the previous package that address the rationale for it. The quick answer would be that we've spent several years working with the chamber, local businesses, vendors, and event organizers to streamline and facilitate their activities in the community. So there's a significant number of changes entailed in both of these 2 bylaws, the vending and the events bylaws, which are a response to the growth of the community, the growth of our events, busy summer seasons and tourism, and attempting to ensure that that growth and that activity, which is very important, is reconciled against the needs of businesses, community expectations. So that's it. It's a lot to answer in a quick question, but that would be my answer.
Thank you.
And I figured this thing out and I won't touch anything else. There was another question that was posted. I was watching when it went up. So it went up when we were again discussing, it was when we were discussing waste disposal, specifically the storm sewers. And the question is, if you can't put waste in, what can you put there?
In storm sewers?
I can speak to that one if you want. Storm sewers are intended to collect the runoff from the road. So rainwater that naturally makes its way into the storm sewer drains. They're not intended as a disposal. So you're not to empty things into the drains. They're just to pick up rainwater.
And when the water goes into the storm drain system, CAO, where does it end up?
Well, that'll depend on where you are. Some of our storm drain system in town will still be piped back into the sanitary system, will make its way into our sanitary treatment, the lagoon treatment. And that is a treatment that can be sensitive to the disposal of some contaminants. Otherwise, it will most likely go directly into the harbor or a wetland or brook on its way into the harbor. And again, depending on the materials, you don't want those going directly into our water courses.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Nope, that's all.
Okay, just a reminder, there will be an announcement on a public hearing coming up for those two bylaws that were given first reading tonight. That is the one on the special events and the one on temporary vending. Okay, good stuff. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks to everyone. Have a nice night.